Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my channel Nnedi. In this video I'm going to talk about Who Fears Death by Nnedi Okorafor. And sad to say, this is probably my least favorite book by Okorafor. I was a little disappointed in it. I have already read Lagoon, Akata Witch, and the Book of Phoenix by her, and I think all three of those books were written more smoothly, structured a bit better, just flowed better, and had more entertaining stories, honestly. But I also think that I really built up Who Fears Death in my head. I built it up as a very challenging and difficult read because I already knew about some of the graphic violence and difficult subject matter in it, but I also had really high expectations after enjoying Okorafor's other books so much, and this book, I believe, predates those other books. So I think that Okorafor has probably gotten better with her storytelling, and I'm just experiencing this stuff in reverse order. Who Fears Death is a post-apocalyptic novel, and the setting probably makes more sense if you've read the Book of Phoenix first, which I'm kind of glad that I did. And it is about a young woman named Onya Sonwoo. Her name means Who Fears Death. She is Ewu or Iwu, I'm not sure how to pronounce the word, but she is the product of rape by an Okeke woman by a Nuru man, and the Nuru are basically waging a genocidal war against the Okeke, so her mother's people are being systematically killed and wiped out, and one of the horrible methods, tools of war that the Nuru use against the Okeke are raping and impregnating women. And Iwu children are shunned by society because it's generally just believed that because they are the product of a violent act, they themselves will be violent. So Onye is just gonna have a difficult time with things all around. Her mother is part of a tribe of people that are being killed. She is shunned by society. People can just tell by her appearance about her family, about her existence, how she came into the world. And then she starts developing magical powers. She can shapeshift, and she tries to convince a local sorcerer to train her. He won't because she's a woman. So a large portion of this book is her kind of making friends with other girls and then convincing this man to train her in magic. And then the rest of the story is about her realizing who her biological father is and finding him to kill him and stop the genocide against the Okeke. So as I mentioned before, I don't think that the writing in this was as smooth and skilled as her other books, and the storytelling itself, the way that the story is structured and the amount of time devoted to the different sections of this coming-of-age story felt a little bit uneven. In particular, there's this really long part of the book where Onye is traveling across the desert for like 5 months with a couple of her friends, and so much of this is about her having sex with her boyfriend and another guy in their group having sex with a woman who isn't the other woman in their group, who is actually his wife. It's basically teenagers and 20-somethings having sex while going through the desert, headed towards basically their deaths. And it felt like this world's version of high school drama. I didn't like it. And then what's supposed to be the climax of the book, the important event, is handled very swiftly and pretty abruptly at the end of the book. Like, okay, well, that was a lot of build-up to not much. But the real killer for this book, for me, was that I did not like any of the characters. I thought that Onye was really disagreeable. Understandably, a lot of her behavior and her reactions to people are driven by the constant prejudice and sexism she deals with. She's constantly fighting for control of her life, of her body, of her actions, and that is very, very difficult. But I couldn't help but feel that all of her relationships, all of her interactions with people were argumentative and difficult and just disagreeable. I didn't like her. And then all the other characters I also didn't like very much. Her boyfriend, who is also Ewu or Iwu, like she is pretty freaking misogynistic. And even by the end of the book, with her influence and her like telling him, you shouldn't be that way, he still kind of is. In addition, this book tackles difficult topics, like some pretty graphic recountings of rape and attempted rape. There's genocide and murder happening, and it also talks about female genital mutilation and the effects of that. And it's really difficult subject matter. It is worth reading, and ultimately isn't any reason why I disliked the book, just it was difficult to get through. So I am glad I read this book, but I am disappointed that I didn't love it, that I didn't feel the impact of the story like I think a lot of people have. And I suspect it's probably because I just read Okorafor's other work first. The thing that I really do like about this book is the title and what it means to me in the context of the story, is the question of, do you fear death? And what does it mean when you no longer fear death? There are women in this story who survive, who persevere against incredible odds, against horrible violence and degradation, and they keep going. And they get to that point where I think you can say, no, they have looked death in the face and they're not afraid, they keep going. And that is the point at which you should be afraid of them. When somebody's no longer afraid of dying and they're gonna keep going, get out of their way.